Hello, my name is Darren Trofimczuk and welcome to Excel Part 2. In this YouTube video, we're going to go through using Excel functions. This will be a follow-up from the first video, Part 1. But in this video, we're going to look at some other functions, which are called sum, average, minimum, max, count, countif, and the count function. We're also going to briefly look at how you go about creating charts with your data. Now, in the part 1 video, I mentioned that we have this Excel file. I'd recommend that after you've watched this video, you take a copy of this. You'll find a copy of the file in the comments section, and it's just a list of items, quantity, and different prices. Also, I mentioned my web page. Now, in this part of the video, I'm going to direct you to go to on my web page, My Courses, Excel Basics, and then this option here where it says basic functions. And you'll see here, when this loads, I've got this illustration talking about how we create a function. Now, in part 1 video, we talked about using this equal sign. In Excel, it's always a good idea to give a function. And you can see here, we did some calculations before with Excel, but here you've got this time round equals sum. And what this effectively means is that you're telling the Excel file that you're going to be doing some kind of calculation, and then you're going to put the type of function in between those operators that we looked at earlier. For example, / for division or star sign for multiplication. And then we've got some other functions here. Now you notice we've got the average function. So if you're going to do a range of calculations, you could use the average. You could count how many times you've entered some data. You could use the max function, which is basically to find the maximum value from a range, or the minimum function to look at the minimum values. And then also something that's slightly bit more complicated, but we'll look at this briefly, which is to countif, where you can actually specify, for example, text or some specific data, which the Excel function will actually count for you and look through a range, which is a really useful function. So here you can see I've asked or instructed the function to look for, in this example, the option called yes. Okay, so we'll look briefly through these in a second, and then we'll look at some types of charts. So let's go back to the Excel file. Okay, now previously we just looked at how to go about doing these. So let's actually now go to our first one. You can see here I've got tomatoes, I've got the quantity, I've got the price set in US dollars, and here I want to do the total cost. So the easiest way to do this, okay, is you can just again put the equal sign, okay, sum, okay, and then open a bracket, because you always can put your different types of data where they are located in brackets. This makes it much easier when you have much more range of different types of data. So again, B2, okay, which is where the quantity is located, star sign, and then C2, and then close the bracket. Okay, press enter. Okay, and what I'm going to do, okay, if I zoom into the worksheet, I'll use this drag and drop tool, okay, to simply do it this way. This saves me having to do the formula each time, and you can see here it's automatically now calculated for each row, for each product, the total cost. Now I'm going to undo this, okay, and I'm going to show you another way that you could do this. If you in some kind of exam and you had like a memory blank and you forget what the purpose of the sum function is, because what you have on your menu bar is this auto sum function, and when you select this, okay, what you see is a list of different functions, the most common functions. And if you keep your cursor over the top, it will actually give you examples. And if you click on more functions, okay, you can type a description here of what you're trying to do, and it will find the most closely matched function for you to use. So one of the functions we'll now look at is using an average function. Okay, so you'll notice here I've got in this Excel file a space in cell reference B. Let's just click on here and double check. It's in C15. Okay, you can see up the top here. And what I effectively want to do is find the average price per unit. And there's, again, you could do this with multiple range of different types of calculations. Again, with functions, a lot of the hard work can be done for you. So you'd simply select the cell reference, C15, go back to this auto sum feature. And then if you select the average function, what it will do is automatically look for the range above where you want your answer. It's now looking in all the different rows from C2 up to C14. And that's what these two dots mean between the cell references, the range of values. When I press enter, okay, you'll see it's now calculated this as 13.72 as the average price per unit. Same thing if I was to put the costs back that we looked at just a minute ago. Let's just quickly do the same calculation as before. So quantity multiplied by the price, which is in C2. Okay, and then I want to just put these in all the cells. Okay, you can see here I've got inside this Excel space on cell reference D16, it automatically adds up the total without me having to do anything. That's because I already had equals sum D2 to D15. So if you put the range, that these two dots in between the cell references, it will just add up whatever values you've got here automatically, rather than keep putting plus each time between each of the different rows. Okay, quite useful function actually. So let's just press enter. You can notice I pressed okay there. Right, now the next one is asked me for this total items ordered. Okay, and what that essentially means is all the total items, like the quantities. Okay, so this is how many of each item I've ordered. Okay, so what I need to do is again use like an addition sum function. So I'm going to put equals sum. Let's just start typing. Okay, remember you always put your data between the brackets and make sure you select the correct one. So B2 to C, so B14 and bracket enter. Okay, you get the total number of items. So you can use this to calculate the quantity. The next one is this most expensive item. And for this one, we're going to use now a different type of function, which is try to find what out of these products is the most expensive. Now, obviously, we could do this manually, simply just by visually looking at this particular column in terms of prices. But the idea is if you've got hundreds and hundreds of rows of data, you'd want the Excel function to try to find it for you, which is obviously going to be much quicker. So the idea of this cell is just to put this in a function that does that particular task. So let's do this. Let's actually just this time go to auto sum. Okay, so you just make sure you've selected the correct place you want to put the function. And now I'm going to use this function called max. And what you do is you simply just make sure you've got equals max. It does it for you. And then you need to specify where it's going to look for the maximum type of price. So this will start in cell reference C2. Okay, and I'll just simply highlight this down. Okay, you need to make sure you stop at C14 because obviously I've got the total average there. Press enter, and now you can see the most expensive item was $28.69. Okay, that is this olive oil product. Average shipping time. Now this is again, you can get a hint of what the function will be because we've got the average here. Okay, if we go to delivery dates, okay, you can see there's a column here where it lists how many days this takes if you get this delivered for each item, approximately for this company. You can see like an average time it looks at the dates here. Okay, you've got 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, and so on. So I want to find the average. So let's quickly use again a function average. Okay, it's automatically just looking at these cells. So I need to obviously change this. Okay, and I need to go to this G column, and then simply highlight the numbers, okay, and make sure that's correct, GT2 to G14, and press enter. And then I get the average shipping day for items generally with this company is 3.76 days, okay. Now, the next function, which is going to be this use of this count and Countif function, is here. It says it wants the delivery times that are 5 days. So you actually now want to use a function that can actually count something very specific, which is obviously delivery for the items which take 5 days to be delivered. So this is a little bit more complicated. So what we do for this is go to AutoSum, and you'll see here you've got count numbers, okay. But for this, I'm not going, this is the confusing part, because if I select count numbers, okay, it's actually just going to count how many entries there has been for numbers. I need to actually be more specific and use what we call a Countif function, because I want to actually count just for this category called 5. Okay, so I'm not actually going to use equals count. Okay, and what you need to do, if you've not done this before, you then need to go to more functions. So you simply type what you want to, the function that you want to actually look for. So in this case, Countif, press OK or go, and then you'll see you've got this Countif function. So effectively what you do now is you double click on the Countif function, and the first thing it's going to ask me is your range of data. So when you go to the end of this space here, okay, and then go to your data range. So in this case, it's going to be delivery date starting from G2 all the way down to G14. So you can see it's done the range here automatically. You select the end of this wizard option. Okay, it brings you back to the main page for using the Countif function, and then you put your criteria. Now in this case, I want it to count 5 days. So what I would do is type 5. You can already see here, usually it's working, because you'll see what the result is. If I count 5 days, there's actually 4 of these categories that have been counted. Press OK, and you can now see here I've got the answer. And what you can see on here is basically the function itself, and you've got G2 to G14, comma 5 on my web page. Okay, when it talks about using Countif, okay, you've got an example here. There's different ways you can actually even type the Countif function if you do this manually, but usually I would recommend you use the wizard. So what I'd like you to do is actually have a go, if you want to practice this, is download the Excel file and try to do this yourself and work your way through and see if you can answer these. The one thing left now is just using charts. If we go back to our worksheet, okay, and if I just look at this data, charts is really forward. One of the great features about Excel is that you can create charts very, very quickly. I usually would zoom out the worksheet first, okay, and what you do is you simply just highlight the data. So I want to make a quick chart with the products, with the prices. And then this time I'm going to go to insert. Usually a nice feature is this recommended charts option. Okay, it would automatically find some charts which might be suitable. Okay, or you can just choose the type of chart that you want to try to create. So I'm going to just create a simple, let's just create this bar chart. Okay, and you can see here now it's done the chart for me. Okay, it's put usually on the x-axis here the products, the y-axis is the prices. And what you can then do is inside the chart here, you can then begin to edit, for example, the label. If you want to put a personalized label, even if you want to try the different colors or formats of the charts, you can just simply hover over the top here. Okay, sometimes people like to use these 3D looking charts. And then you've got these other options on the side. When you select your chart, you'll notice here that you've got this little paintbrush looking icon. So you can actually change also the style here as well. So let's change this 3D effect and the color. Let's choose green, not very nice. Let's go back to blue. Okay, and then this other option, this filter option, you can then obviously take off things you don't want to have. So you notice here I've got this empty space. I'll I'll take this off, okay, and then press apply, and it just gets rid of that part. Also, this plus icon, this allows you to put different categories. So for example, the x-axis never had a name. So if I select, put a tick in this box, x-axis or data table, okay, you can put tables with your charts. So really, really quick and easy to do. And it just makes your whole Excel file look much more stimulating when someone looks at your table of data with a chart as well. So that's more or less the end of this part 2 video. And I look forward for you joining me in my next videos, which will explore using Microsoft Excel with some other functions and some other kind of ideas and concepts. So thank you. And remember to subscribe.